But before I finish, I want to mention 5 things quickly regarding practical advice. Number 1, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power over everything in your life. Meaning nothing occurs, good or bad, except with the divine will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So always turn to Him. If you have this belief firmly in the heart, this will affect how you undertake your daily routines and daily dealings with other people and with yourself. This is the first thing. Like the story of Fadl, meaning the way the money and the rizq would reach the man who would ask bi fadlillah, with the virtue, by the virtue of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second is establish your salah. Establish your prayers in the congregation as much as possible. If you are not able to do all your 5 daily prayers in the masjid, pray your Fajr, dawn prayer in the masjid, and your Isha prayer in the masjid. Why? Al-Imam Muhammad bin Yusuf as-Sanusi rahimahullah records a hadith which states that anyone who prays their Fajr, dawn prayer, and Isha prayer in congregation for 40 days, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the angel to write down al-bara'atu min al-nifaq. He is free from hypocrisy. So always pray your Fajr and your Isha in the masjid. If you cannot perform the other prayers, and pray your Sunan and Nawafil alongside with your Fara'id. This is the second thing. Thirdly, make a portion of the Quran necessary upon yourself that you recite every day. Someone may say, how can we recite 1 juz of the Quran daily? This is impossible. This is what people say, unfortunately. Some of the mashayikh, our scholars, would say that anyone who does not finish the Quran every 30 days, he is considered as someone who has abandoned the Quran. So what to do? When you pray your Fajr prayer, recite the Quran for 15 minutes. And when you finish your Isha prayer, recite the Quran for 15 minutes. 15 in the morning and 15 in the evening. In half an hour, you should be able to finish a juz of the Quran. You know these Khatmul Quran that people have? I have observed that I've gone to Khatmul Quran, they give a juz out. And people who have memorized the Quran take longer to recite the Quran than those who can barely recite the Quran correctly. Sometimes I sit there and they finish the juz in 10 minutes. So these people who cannot even recite the Quran correctly are finishing the juz in 10 minutes. If they are able to do this, then they should be able to finish 1 juz daily. Meaning, if you cut down your activity on the smartphone, the amount of time you spend on Facebook doing this, spend that time doing this, reciting the Quran. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. This is number 3. Number 4, make all your earnings halal. What is the effect of halal income? A man complained to Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala. He said, I suffer from anxiety and stress. I have so much anxiety and stress and worries in my life. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa inquired regarding his source of income. Now, being a faqih, a jurist, he said to him, these specific trades and acts that you are doing are impermissible. Cut them out from your income. His income went down from 5 dinar, 5 golden coins on a weekly basis or whatever daily basis, to 3 dinar, meaning his income went down. A month later, he came back to Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala and he said, I am very happy with my life. Everything is going correct. And he went away. People around Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala were surprised. They said, how can everything be going correct when his income has gone down? Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala said, the 2 additional dinar he was earning was from what we term as mal mashbuh, doubtful wealth. When he removed that doubtful wealth, no, not haram wealth, doubtful. When he removed the doubtful wealth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him happy with his halal wealth, meaning the barakah and blessings of halal income. So many people today want to earn quick money but haram, and they have no satisfaction in their lives. They have no tum'anina with the dhikrullah, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fifth point is to control the tongue regarding other Muslims, meaning avoid as much as possible backbiting, slandering, ghiba, namima, buhtan, making false stories regarding other Muslims. All these things with the tongue, avoid these. If you follow these 5 things, insha'Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us husn al-khatima, insha'Allah, good death. And those of us who have qada prayers to make, how do you do qada prayers? Meaning, if you follow this advice, you avoid haram, you avoid the haram, meaning most of the haram you can sum up as being haram to do with abandoning salah, haram to do with intoxicants, alcohol and drugs, haram to do with zina, anything within the rubric of zina, haram to do with the sins of the tongue, and haram to do with income. This would sum up the 5 major things to do with haram. If you look at any sin, that any person or yourself, meaning a person, should not look at the faults of others. Some of the pious scholars of the Salaf said that we knew people who were outwardly pious and they had no faults. They started to observe the faults of others and point out the faults of others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created those faults in them and removed the faults from the others. So these faults in ourselves, if you observe, they would fall into these 5 principles. Which 5 principles? Of abandoning salah, or to do with intoxicants, or to do with zina, or to do with sins of the tongue, or to do with sins of haram income. Meaning, if we remove these things from our lifestyle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enable us to change our lifestyles. One final point is that when you carry out this plan, who will you rely on? Of course, the Quran says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who struggle in our ways, we guide them to our... Those who struggle in us, we guide them to our ways. We must struggle ourselves. But when we struggle, who do we rely upon? We rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where dua comes in. Always supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He give us the ability to overwhelm our shahwat, our desires and our ego in order to stay within the correct Islamic belief and within the Sharia and the parameters of the Sharia. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enable us to benefit from what I have said. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم وأتوب إليه.